There's obviously a lot of hype around Yuan Bo, but you're looking at the face of the new meta right here. In my opinion, I think that Zhao is just fantastic now, given that he already had access to what I consider to be the best spell in the game, especially with the growing prevalence of foot hero squads, just single entity blobs in general, especially small single entity blobs these days. Final Transmutation is just so good at blowing them up. And now you can max that up with 60% extra, or sorry, 75%, 175% intensity. How do you pull off this tech? Well, the key is you got to take 2 heroes, 2 Wujing War Compasses, and the War Drum, all of which have mastery of the elemental winds, allowing you to get absolutely insane extra damage on your spells. And of course, Final Transmutation, already being a fantastic spell, is going to be potentially completely lethal and broken in this setup. I mean, granted, you do have to take a very strange army construction, so to kind of support those, I've got some Peasant Long Spears as meat shields, and then 3 Celestial Dragon Guard Elite Halberd Infantry, including the Dune Dragons. Got a couple of Jade Lancers for some mass. I do have a Grand Cannon just to keep my opponent, Hadriz, here honest. Honest Hadriz is a great guy, and he's taken Nurgle against me. He's got Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle, a couple of Exalted Heroes, couple of Soul Grinders, lots of Marauders, some Nurglings as a screen here, and some Chaos Knights with Lances in the back. So, we'll get things rolling here. And Zhao, of course, also, I wanted to highlight, did get a new item, which is a massive self-heal. Basically, it's like one of these low-health burst heals that will pretty much heal cap him. Also gives him 20 seconds of 40% damage resistance after he heals, which is considerable, especially with his own base of 5%, you know, typical spell and missile resistance and everything else. Makes him incredibly tanky, and you can kind of play around with his HP, sort of sacrifice a little bit of it, tank out some damage with him, maybe try and draw your opponent out. I'm going to do just that, kind of waddle Yao Ming forward, or rather float him forward, I guess. More of a regal term for such a regal gent. I mean, I say regal gent. He's Crazy Uncle Zhao, and probably my favorite of the 3 dragon siblings, even still, personally. Just love his lore and aesthetic. Yuanbo is cool and all, but yeah, Zhao with that new item giving him self-healing, and the fact that Final Transmutation is so good. The self-healing is really the biggest thing that held him back before, so these Burning Vambraces should be quite potent, but I'm going to come forward here and kind of misclick. I'd meant to click this on the Soul Grinder itself. Honestly, it would have been good to pop that onto the Exalted Hero. I could have got 2 shots with that there. But it is an overcast Final Transmutation. You can see the effect on these Nurglings, which is going to be considerable, or maybe not upgraded, but there you go. I decided to just go ahead and hit the Transform to nope out of that situation. Was a pretty big expense in terms of Winds of Magic, but the whole time, Hadris is just going to be running around to Soul Grinders, trying to trade with my cannons here, get some shots into that, and my high-value infantry here. You can see the Dune Dragons have already taken a few volleys and a few casualties. Same with the Celestial Dragon Guard over here. They're taking a few shots from those Plague Mortars. So let's get in POV of the line troops here. For Cathay, as they see Zhao kind of swooping about there in the distance. More Plague Mortar shots landing. Cannon returning fire. And the multiple wagons here of Cathay, magical wagons advancing. The War Drum, of course, is going to provide either armor or melee attack and immune to psychology, which will be quite helpful in helping to ward off the terror of the Soul Grinders. The extra melee attack, in particular with Harmony. Look at the stats on the Celestial Dragon Guard. I think that's even without, even without the melee attack modifiers, but Regiment Renown goes up to, like, 60. One melee defense just with that Harmony, that extra melee attack, it takes them up into the 50s. Just insane stats on these Dragon Guard with that War Drum, so I should be able to hold out against whatever melee prowess Nurgle can bring to the table. It is quite risky to go with relatively limited missiles against them, but Hadris thankfully didn't really have any mobility to pressure him here. I'm going to counter pressure him. We're going to get the Jade Lancers charging in. Get some nice hammering charges, and then immediately pull away from the Marauders here. Zhao trying to get a quick tear route on one. We don't quite finish the job on their leadership, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull away there. See if maybe we can get these Exalted Heroes a little bit out of position. Also trading great against the Soul Grinders right now, still with the cannon. If we check in on the value there, the cannon has, let's see, not the Alchemist. Yes, the cannon has a 1200 value, so it's already paid for itself. And both the Soul Grinders have not. I would imagine that one's been running around, not really using too much of its ammo. This one's a little bit closer to paying for itself. Maybe with some melee combat, it could potentially. But, yeah, since Hadris is hanging back for the time being, looks like he's going to be dumping some healing there into that Soul Grinder from his caster. Nurgle champions pressuring my, Jade Lancers back. So again, we're just moving back to the support of the halberds, kind of sliding my line rightwards in order to kind of be in a better position to perhaps support these engagements here. I'm still relatively close enough. Grand Cannon's also, again, paid for itself already and used up a lot of ammunition, so I'm not really too worried as some flanking Nurglings managed to eventually shut it down. But for the time being, even just moving to block is enough. We're going to go for some more charges with the Jade Lancers. Fortunately, not enough to rout foul Nurgle forces, but still, it's helping to kind of disrupt the advance here. Hadris forces a little bit. Here come the Soul Grinders. Done some considerable damage. My infantry looking pretty tattered, even if their stats are quite high still. But now that the close combat is engaged, the compasses can start to unleash their magic. We've got lightning bolts and comets on cue. Hadris is able to dodge a couple of those there without taking too much damage, but I say dodge. It's actually because those guys just terror routed there, so that's a thing. Nurglings eventually do get onto that Grand Cannon, but not before it gets a few last shots on Soul Grinder there, which is definitely suffering. So the Soul Grinder moving into combat, and we've got the full wagon squad ready. It's regenerating with some magic, waiting for the right opportunity. Throw down that nasty final transmutation. In the meantime, we'll just watch the Soul Grinder try and beat the drum here. Definitely is angered by its incessant pounding. Feels the need to attack it head on, which is fine. You see a comet drop here, I believe. The thing about the Wujing War Compasses, I mean, if you can get good value from their bound spells, it can be pretty decent, but honestly, it's a little bit of a hit or miss, especially because Comet takes so long, and against a skilled player like Hadris, it's pretty easily able to dodge a lot of those AoE damage effects. But thankfully, Final Transmutation, you can actually, like, cast on the character, right? Oh yeah, I'd forgotten. Zhao had a little bit of a bug here where he, yeah, for whatever reason, when he transformed out of dragon form, I couldn't control him, and he actually ran over into those marauders. But anyway, here comes the big nuke, and let's keep the health bars up so you guys can see. Keep your eye especially on these two champions of Nurgle here. The Exalted Heroes just getting absolutely nuked by Final Transmutation. So this is a thing that exists in the game. I was hesitant to even show this replay because, I mean, yeah, obvious ramifications, but at the same time, a lot of people are kind of angered by the foot hero squads, and I mean, this is certainly a tech to try and counter them potentially. Is this something you can reliably do as Cathay? I don't necessarily think so, because it does require you to take a very specific kind of weird build. I think if it doesn't, if you end up whiffing on your spells, or for whatever reason don't get enough value from them, it can definitely hurt, just like those comets hurt my frame rate as they come through and just wreck a couple of units of Marauders. So in very short order, at relatively even balance of power, just absolutely caves. Both the Exalted Heroes rout. Knights had been put into tactical reserve. Unfortunate for Hadris. Not that they would have helped a lot. They probably also would have just got nuked on the Final Transmutation, but going to do his best to try and get him into combat here and start to ping-pong around between some different targets. But already looking like, yep, another Final Transmutation off of cooldown. Exalted Heroes are going to move out of that area of effect relatively quickly, so they won't take too much damage. Although even that one, that relatively short duration, regular Final Transmutation, just absolutely insane damage. It really is quite ridiculous, the amount of intensity you can get. And this is just, again, it does require you to take a little bit of an odd build, but I think if you're not facing a missile-oriented faction, this becomes a lot more viable. I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments below how cheesy you think this is. and if it would actually be viable in real matches, but it's a thing, and I don't know, maybe Creative Assembly should consider putting a cap on Mastery of the Elemental Winds for multiplayer. Not really sure how I'd feel about that. You guys have to let me know. I might be in favor of it, to be honest, having like a maybe a 4 or a 5 cap even on units with Mastery of the Elemental Winds, but I don't know. It would be even less of a reason to take the Wujing War Compass, especially the War Drum. I don't know. I think the War Drum will see some use in certain matchups. I don't think it'll be a staple in every matchup, but definitely seems solid. And Zhao with his Alchemist here just continuing to harass the War Drum, just beating out the death march of these Chaos Knights of Nurgle. And the Nurgle characters do all come back from out, get together for a little circle beating of this particular War Compass. And the apprentice Astromancer on the back is definitely, no doubt, worried for his life. But here comes Uncle Zhao coming in with his crazy magic. And, oh yeah, I'd forgotten. I actually did take Searing Doom on one of the Alchemists. I don't think I've actually used it at all, but it's there, just in case. I'm gonna have to form up into a tiny little box here because my infantry is quite damaged, but don't want to necessarily get Zhao caught out and killed unnecessarily, or any of my other single entities. So we'll fast forward a little bit as Hadriz tries to find openings here and get at least some semblance of damage on my army. The Chaos Knights definitely are able to come in and get some work done, but it's just a lot of elite halberds still left, and everything else for Nurgle is definitely going to have a tough time. Yeah, a little bit of Searing Doom there, just to kind of help clear out the rest of Winds of Magic that I had. Zhao going to go ahead and hit the transform so he can start to get some terror routes going just to finish this thing off. And Celestial Dragon Guard just holding out. I don't honestly use them too much in land battles as Cathay. Not that I'm Cathay an expert by any means, but they definitely feel very good with all these harmony modifiers amped up. The fact that you can take the War Drum in a build like this and not have to be relying at all on ranged units. All these units are still in full harmony, which is just insane. Again, it's 56, 61 stats with the War Drum's attack buff on those Dune Dragons, so just absolutely bonkers in terms of you're paying relatively little for them. Just absolutely insane stats, so it's pretty interesting. Cathay, I know some of you guys have been saying, oh no, Cathay's weak, they've been losing a lot of these land battles. It's primarily because people are trying out new things and they don't 100% know what works best yet, whereas Cathay strategies against Cathay for many factions are relatively well developed. Also, specifically against Kislev, the new Kislev units help that matchup a lot, which I think skews somewhat the sort of perception of the new Cathayan stuff. But man, I'll tell you what, in this build it definitely felt that much extra broken, right? And you could already do something like this, but the War Drum definitely makes this quite a bit better, even though it in and of itself doesn't get any value here. It allows the Celestial Dragon Guard to punch even harder. It gives them immune to psychology that they don't have immune to psychology baseline otherwise, right? I don't remember, but anyway, would give like these War Compasses immune to psychology, so they don't get terror routed and isolated away. Yeah, Xiao himself speaks volumes. I mean, almost 5,000 damage value, 25,000 damage dealt. Most of that coming on one cast of Overcast Final Chance Mutation. So again, just be aware this is something that's in the space of possibilities that you can do in the game now until Creative Assembly decides otherwise. I'm not sure if they even will. Probably they should. But anyway, the rest of the build is just kind of here. I say just kind of here. 900 damage value on some Peasant Long Spears. Yeah, I mean, just the War Drum juicing them up, especially those lower tier troops, just trade way above their weight class. So it's definitely kind of Cathay's MO. 1600 value on the cannon as well. Both the Soul Grinders, well, I say both. One of them was just about able to pay for itself. The other one had a little bit of a tougher time due to the cannon. Knights, had they brought in a little bit earlier, I don't think would have made much of a difference at all. Maybe a tiny bit, but honestly, there was not a lot they were going to do against nasty, nasty Uncle Zhao. And yeah, the rest of it is what it is. Jade Lance was able to hammer out and kind of disrupt the Marauders to a large degree, not to mention the AoE damage from the War Compasses. So Definitely an interesting one. Let me know what your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about this Master of the Elemental cheese? Is it cheese or is it just a gimmick? I look forward to reading your comments, so thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all that typical YouTube nonsense. Thanks again. See you next time.